Hey, welcome to the 528th episode of Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing. This episode is brought to you by patrons Carolyn Craighead, Richard Yeagley, and Stephanie Franz. I'm Matt Enlow.
And I'm Oren Kaplan, and today we have agency producer Greg Kort on the podcast. And he is a producer I just worked with, and he's a very good producer. And, you know, we were originally going to have Agency Creative Month be only agency creatives. But like the more we talk to agency folks, especially in the kind of lens of our podcast, the more I realize that our listeners probably just kind of want to know how they can get jobs working with agencies. Mm-hmm. And the person most responsible for introducing a director to an agency creative is typically the agency producer. And so we thought Greg was a perfect match for that type of conversation. And I think he brought a ton of insight in terms of what to put on reels, how they select people, what the numbers are. It's funny, we've been doing this for a while, not just the podcast, but directing commercials and things. And I've only recently kind of started to get a sense of what the numbers are, like how many director reels are being seen by the producers, by the creatives. And I do wonder if, I guess not to spoil anything, but the number is big. Mm-hmm. They're seeing a lot of directors, and there's a lot of very talented directors. And I think it's no surprise that with the advent of everyone having a camera in their pocket, a lot of people are really good at filming things.
They've skilled up. Yeah, I think this conversation was really fruitful. I think it was really illuminating. I think it is worthwhile to be aware that like Donor is an agency of a certain size. And every time I work with a different company, you're always reminded of the tiny little differences. Like you feel like there should be like industry standard across everything, and it's always a little different. Our friend Deb over the PBS group always gives me a hard time because I'm always like, I kind of forget how to do this part, and it drives her insane. But what I mean is always like every company does it a little differently, so I'm always trying to remember, how does this company like to do it versus the one that I just did a week ago and the one that I did 2 months ago and all of that stuff. So there is a little bit of a caveat there, but I think like it's a really illuminating conversation. I think it really is going to surprise people in a lot of different ways, or in ways that you know, obviously you don't see coming. There's stuff that you think you know that maybe it's different at Donor or somewhere else. And it was really awesome and really generous for us to have the conversation. And I think that you all are going to learn a lot.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a long episode or not. Do you want to catch up on anything? You're working on some
I have
stuff?
so much to catch up on, but I think we should just save it, right?
Yeah. Just do an episode about it on Thursday?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. That's right. So we are working to get a fourth creative person. We'll see if that happens. I wanted to round it out to a perfect month, but it might just be 3. We'll see.
Yeah, it's these creatives in there, 9-to-5 jobs plus being on the East Coast. They're sometimes a little hard to schedule.
I think also, honestly, Oren, I'm so grateful that you and I banked a few episodes because I'm still jet lagged. I could go to sleep right now, and you have been out from Toronto, and you have been out of the state most of this month.
Yeah. Well, California sucks, man.
Yeah, you're just going to move to Austin, invest in...
No, I love
Denison and, cordyceps or something.
Yeah. I know California is so expensive, but isn't like part of the reason it's so expensive is because everyone wants to be here?
Yeah, it's the main reason.
While they hate it all the time? Anyway.
I don't hate it at all. I have heard it be called a sunshine tax, which I am fond of. I think that's right.
Yeah. And can I tell you, I'm dealing with weather today in Dallas. I dealt with weather last week in Austin. I mean, we all know what happens on the East Coast and then the Pacific Northwest and the North and then in the Midwest. I do think we still have, the best weather.
Best weather.
Really hard to argue.
And also the reason we started shooting here is because we had consistently great weather the whole time and also access to tons of different locales and regions. So those advantages haven't gone away.
Okay. Well, with all that said, we'll
Callie,
let you hear from a real pro.
Callie. Have you ever said Callie before in your life? I feel so.
Callie? Yeah, my son actually has a girl in his class named California, and they call her Callie.
Yeah, cute.
Which I think is fun.
Yeah.
And on to Greg Kort, holding court with Greg Kort. I feel like there's kind of this weird artificial wall between agency people and directors usually. Is that your experience?
yes, that you are sensing something that probably does exist most of the time. It's
Is it intentional? Like, is that institutional for a reason, or is that just something that has formed over years?
That's a good question. I don't know if I've actually ever thought about what that is. I mean, it's different directors I have different relationships with. Sometimes it's very all business. You're here for a role, and we're gonna keep it at that. Other times we really vibe, and I'm like, I want to learn from this person and I want to hang out with them. And, I tend to, I'm into comedy stuff. So when someone has comedy kind of sensibilities, and Oren does, I would say, I sort of gravitate toward those people just as people, not necessarily just directors. If it's someone I can be friends with, that I guess that barrier maybe evaporates a little bit, but it just depends, and what went into the job, and what kind of turbulence led up to the job can sometimes affect the whole vibe on the set and stuff. So it's case by case,
I think there's also something of like, if the job is really fun, and also if it's a travel job, like if you're all staying in the same hotel and everyone's vibing, and like sometimes it's just those fun magical jobs where like everyone ends up hanging out a lot, and doesn't have anywhere else to go, and those are exhausting and very fun.
I agree. And the job I just did with Oren, he was local in the LA area. So it might have been a little bit different for him. He was probably anxious to get home to his kids and his family. And we were traveling.
I don't like my kids or my family.
But I think it is a little different though when everyone's traveling, and it's kind of like we got nowhere else to be. You can kind of bond a little bit, and then if the clients are there, that kind of affects the vibe, and it just depends who's hanging out.
And also like just history amongst everyone, right? Like sometimes the client being there is the thing that gets the party started, right?
For sure.
Like, oh, these people are so fun. We've worked with them for years. We absolutely have to take them out. So who else is coming along,
Totally.
But before we divulge into your favorite client entertainment spots in every major city, Greg, just kind of, can you describe what an agency producer does and how it might be different from other producerial jobs? So
I've actually been in at this agency since I graduated college. So I do have a pretty narrow point of view. It's just kind of been my career since I graduated, for better or worse.
Which agency is this?
A donor advertising, which has been a staple in the Detroit area for
Love their kebabs.
decades. We do too. But so an agency producer, my role there is I kind of oversee jobs, productions from ideation all the way to shipping. So I'll be brought in. It varies per job. Sometimes it's a little later in the process, but often the creative teams will bring you in and say, this is kind of what we're cooking up. Here's some early concepts. Are we kind of in our rough ballpark of budget that we're working in? Or, and I'll be like, look, guys, you got to remove a couple of those talent. You got to remove a set piece. You got to, to keep us in bounds. And, and then I see it through to once it starts getting a few approvals deep, we start getting to the bidding process. I oversee the bidding process, which is a huge aspect that I'm sure we're going to talk more about. Pulling reels, developing ballpark budgets, creating production calendars that we will try to adhere to that always change, going through the bidding process, awarding, pre-production, shoot, all the way through post-production. And then post-production can mean, just edit, can be special effects. It can mean, that can vary how big that process is. Jobs
Someone
can
might
last.
want to buy some expensive music, and you have to be like, we can't afford.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm going through that right now where the editor pulled some music and it's like, dude, where did you pull this from? And it's like, we can't, that has a vocal on it. I can't afford
Billboard Top 100.
Can I tell you guys, I'm working on this job right now.
In Starbucks.
I didn't know this, but it's like I'm doing like the second round of a campaign, but I didn't do the first round. And in the first round, the music they used is from Ocean's 11. And literally, it's the same thing. Like they just pulled it and the client fell in love with it. And they're like, this is a soundtrack. There's no lyrics or anything. It's not a famous song. It's just music from Ocean's 11. And now they're like, this year we're trying to find something that has the same vibe, but maybe not the same price.
Well, and also you can absolutely find sound alikes. You could probably use Ocean's 11 or like some similar keywords to get you most of the way there, but they will not be as good as that score. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, and this job I'm working on now, it's like we pulled all these funk tracks and they all sound very similar, but some suck and some are awesome. So like they're very similar, but some just don't work. So you're like, and they all start sounding the same after a while, and you're trying to figure out why some work and some don't. And then you're reaching back out to music reps and saying, can I have something with more bass and less guitar? And
yeah, and then you're just chasing something that's sort of imaginary, and
yeah,
they could send you that exact thing, and it's not actually what you wanted.
My litmus test is I like call my wife over and I'm like, I'll play her the 2 tracks. I'm like, which one? One is obviously better. I'm like so 100% convinced. I was like, which one's better? And she's like, I guess I prefer this one a little bit. And it's always the one that I think is worse.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, this is all in my head.
Yeah. That's actually a very good litmus test and a good way to like know you're just being pedantic or something. You know, like you're chasing something that is only in your head, like you said.
I mean, that's like half the job is like trying to figure out what's in the creatives' heads and things that they dial in on that they think is very important. And half the time I'm constantly trying not to just say it's good enough, because that's not a good thing to say to a creative, but it's like, dude, it's good enough. No one else is going to notice this but you. But you're trying to find that balance of like making the best thing possible for you and the client and something worth putting out in the world. And also just keeping you on budget, keeping you on schedule, and going, guys, no one's going to pay attention to that little cleanup thing that you're fixating on. It's fine.
Well, and also that's one of the true delights of making a commercial is that we do get to indulge in making every frame as close to perfect as possible. And like, you don't get to do that in other mediums until you're really, really, really like a studio director, right?
Yeah.
Like it's either you get to make commercials or a Star Wars where you get to like really dig in that deep and be that nitpicky and previs that hard and all of the stuff that we relish so much. So like, you know, when you jump back into an indie film and you're like, oh, I didn't get to board every single second of this with an incredible artist. What am I even doing? How could this possibly be good?
Yeah. My psychological trick for deciding when I can't decide between 2 things, like this music or this music or this cut or this cut or this take or this take, if it's incredibly difficult for me to decide, then I just tell myself that means they're both great, you know?
Yeah.
And just whatever, just use whatever the first one is on the
and if it
timeline or the shorter one.
20 minutes later, you'll be obsessing about something else, and then you'll rewatch the edit. And if it's still bumping you, then maybe you revisit it. Like you shift gears pretty quick too. Before we go too much further though, Greg, I want to circle back to my initial question, because what you described to me sounds a lot like most producers. In what way are you different from, say, a line producer or an executive producer?
Yeah. Well, I think the a line producer, I think, is very close to the actual production, and they're very close to the crew they hire, and they have that Rolodex and those relationships, and they're very, I mean, there's some overlap for sure between all these roles we're talking about, but like, I think my role is very intimate with the agency's goals and the agency creative, and then also I'm one degree closer to the client than I think a line producer or other people are. So it's just being part of, you know, balancing those goals. You know, like the agency usually has objectives that they're trying to create for, you know, for publicity or awards or just it's cool. And then the client obviously has their objectives that hopefully overlap, but not always. And I mean, we all want something successful, but you know, what we think is cool and what the client thinks cool is not always the same. So my job is, I think my role is I'm a gatekeeper. I have to gatekeep information from what do I tell the creatives about what the production company's saying? What do I tell the production company? What the creatives and the clients are saying? What do I gatekeep between the account team and the creatives? You know, like I'm sort of a connective tissue between a lot of departments. So I think that I'm a gatekeeper, and I'm also just, you know, I'm trying to be an advocate for a lot of different people, and I'm trying to make a lot of different parties happy, which is sometimes, you know, I have production knowledge and creative sensibilities, but a lot of times my job is just balancing personalities and trying to make a lot of people happy that hopefully have the similar goals, but not always.
I think this gatekeeper concept is like a perfect segue, and hopefully, Matt, I'm not cutting you off too soon, but a perfect segue into the juicy stuff, which is, from our point of view, one of the most important gates that you keep are which directors you show the creative team as potential, you know, directors for the work that you do. I think when you go to film school, I mean, which I didn't, but both of you guys did, and you graduate and you're like, okay, so now who hires directors? There's actually like very few people in the world that hire directors, but you are one of them. You're one of the people that makes the match, you're a matchmaker. Can you tell us a little bit about that gate and how you find people and how you decide who to show?
How you open it and slam it in people's faces.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, well, it starts with, obviously you get the concepts from the creative team, and that's sort of.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say, Greg, you said obviously, and I'm going to wager that 75% of what you're about to tell us isn't obvious.
Okay.
And it took me about 10 years of podcasting to learn and directing professionally to figure out everything that you're about to say.
So I get an assignment at work, and they give me the concepts from the creative team, and let's say it's a 30-second commercial. And depending on what the client is, that sort of sets a path of what I'm trying to look for. So is it comedy? Is it lifestyle? Is it tabletop? Is it food? Is it automotive? Is it, emotional? Is it healthcare? Is it, whatever it is?
Are you on a few accounts, or are you across everything the agency does and they kind of assign you willingly?
I actually touch, one of the perks of working at Donor, and a big reason why I've stayed there for as long as I have, it's been 15 years literally this month, is they have a very wide roster of clients. A lot of Detroit agencies just have an automotive client. They just have Ford, or they just have Dodge, or whatever it is. And that's sort of their main bread and butter. Donor has Stellantis, which is a big automotive brand and one of our biggest clients, but we also have a wide variety of clients, and it changes over the years as agencies clients come and go. It's part of the game. But so I actually touch basically everything except automotive. So I've actually, for various reasons, have kind of steered my ship away from automotive. I'm just not personally that interested in it, and I didn't want, a lot of people get pigeonholed into automotive, and I didn't want that for myself. But
it's pretty hard too, right? Like once you're great at it, it's like, well, you can kind of just
and it's cool. And believe me, it's been tempting because automotive stuff shoots really cool stuff. They have pretty big budgets often. Yeah,
there's always a new car to sell.
Yeah, there is always a new car, but it's always driving down the street. And it's a very similar message usually. So for better or worse, living in Detroit, not working on automotive is a risk I've taken. But anyway, so I work on a lot of different stuff. I've worked on pizza. I've worked on healthcare. I've worked on, food. I've worked on lighters, shipping. I've worked on a lot of different stuff over the years. So that getting the whatever the creative is, the concept for the spot or spots or whatever it may be, that's sort of going to lay the groundwork for the next few weeks of work, right? Like that is, that's going to inform me of how I reach out to reps, who are the other gatekeepers in this advertising world.
It's a tall sandwich, really.
Yeah. And so I reach out to my kind of roster of reps, and me and Oren were talking about this on set recently. We don't know how many reps there really are out there. It's sort of a nebulous concept. They're out there. We don't know if there's 1,000 or 4 of them, and they just they rear their heads when you need. They always kind of sense when you need something too, and they talk to each other. And you send something out to one rep, and 10 reps pop up, and it's pretty interesting how they operate.
You alluded to your roster of reps, though. You don't have to name names, but like how many people are on that list? Like how many people are you emailing in general?
I definitely have my favorites that I just sort of have developed a relationship with, but I try to cast a wide net whenever I can. So my list is it's a dozen, give or take, a dozen reps, and they cover the country, right? And they each got a roster of production companies, so it's the gambit. I'm sure I'm missing a few, but I'm reaching out to a vast majority of the representation out there.
It's funny, when I asked you that question, I realized I don't know what answer I'm hoping to hear, because if you said 2, that's great for the companies that are rostered by those 2 reps, and if you said 100, then we're just minnows in a giant barrel.
It's like
but
a
it
dozen.
means that you have a high chance of being reached by Greg if you said 100.
Yeah,
sure.
But the reps are they're more of a gatekeeper than I am, because then I will say, hey, I got this kind of job, I got this kind of money, I'm just trying to aim to shoot in this month, so that give me someone who's available, and then they curate a list of reels to me that they think fits the bill. So they could be holding back, untold amounts of directors they're sitting on, but the reps that I like are really good at going, this person fits, they've done some work that fits this. Because I'm sure we're going to talk about it. What do you look for on a reel? We're always looking for what we are trying to make. We're trying to look for the job we're about to produce. We want to see that on the reel, which isn't fair, but that's kind of what it boils down to often.
It's not unfair. It's just hard.
I mean, it makes total logical sense. It's just, as we know as creatives ourselves, you can do more than what you've done. So, like editors that haven't cut, they've only cut automotive, but they know they can cut food if they just were given the chance. But all they got is automotive on their reel, so that's all they get. So it's hard to get out of that. So it's when you're fortunate enough to have a variety on your reel, it opens up more doors.
I do gotta say, like I remember I used to do a lot of commercials for Quiznos, and I got to, on one of them, I got to work with this colorist at Company 3, Bo, who had done a ton of Taco Bell, which I kind of thought, looked at Taco Bell as kind of the A-list, food commercials, fast food commercials, and Quiznos was like, C+ list. And I was like, dude, I want you to do the Taco Bell treatment on my sandwiches, my Quiznos sandwiches. Like, what do you do? And he's like, usually we don't do much, maybe a little more red for the peppers. They're just shot really well. I'm like, God damn it. But that is like why you hire, right? You want to hire an automotive director because you're like, you should not shoot a car from that angle. Like, have you never shot a car commercial before? Like, there's some 101 things that you don't want to have to teach directors, right? But maybe you want Spike Jonze to direct your car commercial, and you want to see what a Spike Jonze spin on a car commercial is, and he will shoot it from a weird angle, and that's why you hired him.
Yep. Yeah, and we look for other things too. It's not just a 1-to-1. You're looking for the spot you're trying to make. I mean, there's a lot of factors. As you can imagine, there's is it dialogue? Is it comedy? Is it, what kind of comedy is it? Is it slapstick? Is it general comedy? Is it more deadpan? Is it tabletop? What kind of tabletop? Is it drinks? Is it liquid? Is it sandwiches? Is it pizza? Pizza's a whole art form in itself. You have cheese pulls. Cheese pulls. Cheese pulls are they're everything. I swear. Yeah, they're they're a bitch.
Fucking cheesy.
So, you're looking for a lot of different qualities on a reel, and so I get a ton of reels from reps, and depending on the job, I'll reach out to more or less and get more or less. Then I'm sort of the next gatekeeper of like, how many of these do I want to share with the creative team? I try to, depending on what my...
So we're just going to hit the brakes real quick because I think Matt and I wouldn't, and you feel free to tell us that you'd rather not say, by the way, on any question we ask. But this is a place where I think for as long as we've been doing this, we probably don't have a great idea about the numbers. I mean, you and I talked about it a little bit, but I'm curious, like, do some reps send you like 5 people and other reps send you like 50 people?
Yeah.
Like, do they send you 5 people from the same production company, or do they try to just send you one from each? Like, what's the gamut on that?
Yeah. It depends on the rep. It depends on the rep. And that's why I reach out to more than one, because like some I know they're going to send me like, 2 different production companies with 2 to 3 directors per production company. And that's all they have. That's all they rep, or that's all they feel is appropriate. Other ones will be, maybe a dozen. I don't think I ever get 50 from a rep. They're pretty good at curate because they know you got to go through it. So if they spend you too much, it's like, well, you didn't really help me. I got to watch all these now. So, and to be honest, sometimes I don't watch all of them. Sometimes I find what I'm looking for and I stop looking. And if you're just at the bottom of the email, maybe you fall off. That is, I try not to do that more than I need to. But yeah, so it varies per rep. Some are a few, some are a dozen or so. So it varies. And then I sort of take that and I sort of go through it, curate it. And I try to give the creative teams like a pretty wide net. Like I try not to knock off, because they might see something that I'm not seeing. So I try not to like do too much of the curating myself. But like if I know something's just wrong, I try not to waste their time with it. Because it's not their job to do my job for me. Like I should do a one round of curation for them.
Let me ask, what makes something wrong, right? Like,
and wrong doesn't mean bad. It just means like the first thing you're looking for is just stuff like what you're trying to produce. So I might try to find things that are very similar and very like, okay, this is exactly what they're asking for. and I might send a short list first sometimes, and then if they're not satisfied, I'll have some I'm sitting on that I can send. So what's wrong is just, I mean, it's subjective, right? We're in a very subjective biz, so it's like, you know, sometimes it's not fair. It's like you haven't shot some best spots in a long time, so your stuff just looks a little dated. It was good spots 10 years ago, but you haven't shot anything cool in 10 years. So just because it looks a little, you know, because there's eras, right? You can see when stuff was shot in certain eras. So sometimes sometimes I'm like, oh, this guy shot the Skittles spot that I cracked up at 10 years ago. So I'm going to send him because I just like that spot. And this is the guy that did that spot. So it's, you know, it's a brutal biz. It's like casting. It's like, sometimes it's like, you just don't got the look. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm sure you're a good actor, but
yeah. How much does the production company come into play at that point, right? Or like, when you're doing that pre-sorting, are you aware of the production company? And obviously you have your favorites. You have companies that you've worked with before that you really like.
Yep.
Does someone ever get knocked out because they're unfamiliar from a company, or tell us more about that?
Yeah. Usually when the rep sends over director reels, it usually will say the production company and then the director links underneath there. So I'll see who they're associated with. And, you know, like, I've worked with a lot of companies, but I haven't worked with all of them. So some of them are completely new to me. I'll sometimes ask around. I'll ask my boss or some of the people that have worked in the biz longer than I have. And they're like, oh, yeah, you know, they're good for this or that. Or, oh, is so-and-so still over there? Yeah, they're cool. But a lot of times, you know, probably more than half the times, I might not be familiar at all. I might have heard the name, but I have no experience with them. Obviously, if I've worked with them before, that does give them some sort of leg up. I'll have if it was a good experience, I'll have a bias towards them. I'll be like, oh yeah, they were rock solid. They took care of me. Or if it's bad, that obviously, you know, you never know what the next job is going to be. So it's like, you know, and sometimes it's not fair to the directors because the directors had nothing to do with it, or the director did fine, but maybe their EP was kind of tough, you know, or the line producer they hired was a character. And I just like, if I just had a bad taste in my mouth from that experience, I might be like hesitant to go into it again because it just takes one bad experience, and you know, we have enough stuff to worry about. Sometimes it's just like, I don't need one more thing to try to navigate. So, but
and you have hundreds of options. It's not like you're picking from 3 options.
But I fortunately don't have a lot of horror stories. So most people are very professional. When you get to a certain level, you're there for a reason usually. So I don't have a lot of bad experiences. So there's not a lot of bad blood with anyone or bad, you know, stay away from them.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's like how we look at agencies. If you have an actor or writer or someone in the rep by CAA or William Morris or something, you're like, okay, this is legit. CAA obviously saw something. So if you get, you know, something from Caviar or Smuggler or Hungry Man or whatever, you're like, there's a certain something that those people saw in this director. Totally. But you might see an amazing reel and they're freelance and they're just pitching with a production company or someone that owns their own company that you haven't heard of, but their reel is incredible. Then do you ever do like vibe checks, or are you you always just kind of get to your list?
Vibe checks in that, like, reach out to the production company and talk to the EP or something, vibe check, or
meet, like what we've been seeing the last couple of years is, hey, they don't want you to write a treatment yet. They just want to meet you and see if you're someone that's worth getting a treatment.
It's like there's 5 directors in the mix, and they're going to narrow it down to 3. So
I mean, I kind of consider that the first call is kind of the vibe check. If there's some red flags and we just feel like no way for whatever reason, which doesn't happen often. Usually if their reel was good enough to call them, it usually doesn't derail that much later. But once in a while, you know, we often have to triple bid because that's just the industry best practices. So sometimes we'll see a few reels that we really like. So we'll go, okay, let's call 4 of them instead of 3. And then we'll knock one of them out. And so
that's what we would call a vibe check for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll do the vibe check, and then we kind of just based on that initial conversation, we'll knock them out. It's a little unfair because, and I talked to Oren about this on our shoot together. The bidding process is set up, I think, in a way that makes sense because it has different stages of picking the director. And the first initial chemistry call, you have the treatment, and then you follow up with your treatment to go over a call with that. And then you have the reel, of course, at the beginning. The reel, I guess, is the first stage. The reel, the first call, the treatment, and the follow-up call. That's sort of the bidding process in a nutshell. And I think it's sort of designed that way for a reason, because people can be good sometimes at the initial call. They can be very good at, they can be charismatic. They can know all the things to say. They can echo back to the creative team what they want to hear. But then if it doesn't translate to the treatment, you start to shake out like, okay, they're just kind of good on the phone, but like, it's not there in the treatment. Or the other way around. Sometimes they can be very quiet. They're very introverted, introspective. Sure. And you're like, I couldn't really get a vibe off them. But then they're just very thoughtful people maybe, and they needed time to digest and process, and then they give you an amazing treatment, and you're like, oh, okay, they were just downloading everything we were giving them, and then they put it all in the treatment. And then the reel, after we go through the process, we always go back to the reel and go, okay, what do these people actually make in the end? Like what they made, you can make a treatment look amazing, but like, how do you actually deliver?
Sure.
So it is sort of a process where you got to kind of take each part of it into consideration, because there's directors that are better at talking, better at treatments, better at everything. Oren's very good at all of them. And we talked a little bit, and it sounded like it sounded, correct me if I'm wrong, Oren, you said it took you a second though to sort of dial in those chemistry call skills though. It wasn't an innate thing you had going for you initially.
Well, I learned it. Yeah, I used to be at this company called the Famous Group that doesn't really exist anymore. They've spun off a production company called Superlative, but they taught me like everything I knew. I came in as just like a filmmaker, like a narrative filmmaker that just thought that I'm cool, and that advertising is like a lot of filmmakers are like, yeah, I'll just do commercials on the side, while I'm trying to write my movie or whatever. And I didn't really understand this giant system that I was like trying to pierce, and how salesmanship worked. And I do think being good at winning commercials does make you good at winning TV shows and directing assignments. And you're really learning how to present and sell to people. And that's what advertising is. So I think it's like great practice, even if it's not the end goal, even though I personally happen to like it a lot.
And I've done.
They taught me how to do calls and treatments and everything.
Yeah, it's a whole skill set. And I've done a little bit of directing, like very little, like almost not enough to really tout myself as a commercial director. But I've done a handful, and I've had to do a few treatments and stuff and treatment calls. And even the treatment, there's a whole art in that you have to kind of spell out things that like I would think is just obvious. Like, yeah, of course we're gonna make it look beautiful, but you have to have like kind of like a whole page just to describe.
You have to say, I'm going to make it look beautiful.
Yeah. You have to kind of just say the obvious part out loud.
Yeah.
Well, I was just talking to, I'm on a job here with the DP, and we were just talking about treatments and AI, and how I do know a lot of directors that are like, well, I just taught Claude or ChatGPT how I write treatments, and now it writes my treatments. And I'm like, I've tried that 100 times, but all it does is it writes the obvious stuff. Like for the art direction page, it's going to say, we'll make the house look lived in. Like these are real people that live here. But that's like not a treatment. That's like wasting people's time, because they're not saying anything. Like, I think what is interesting is if you say like, oh, I thought it'd be cool if you put a pair of skis and like, some baseball bats and tennis rackets all in the closet to show that this is a guy that's tried a lot of things but never followed through before on anything. Like trying to, like the specificity is the only thing that matters. And the AI is like really bad at
it's a generalist,
something that other directors wouldn't give.
Yeah. No, that's true. And your treatment, Oren, was nice because I could feel your personality in it, and it felt like.
And you hired him.
Yeah. We did. But like, and look, I don't know if you had help. It's a lot of directors have help writing treatments. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know if you did or didn't, but your personality was in your treatment. So you either wrote it yourself or you went back through and you added yourself in there, and that I like that, because you feel like, oh, this person is injecting themselves in it. You kind of can feel what you're going to get, because sometimes if you want to talk about, and maybe this is one of your next questions, is what do directors do wrong?
It is. Yes, that is the next question for sure.
Yeah. One of those things is when it doesn't feel like they've even read their treatment before. Like it feels like someone else wrote it. They're reading it to us. word for word for the first time together. And it's like
they're mispronouncing their own word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've literally had a director before. I usually say, like, you don't have to read it to us. We've already read it. Just kind of go through top level and let's just talk about
it's a
it.
defensive meeting
Yeah.
opening.
Yeah. And I've said that before, and then I've had directors just proceed to read it to me. And I'm like, it's not necessarily a deal breaker, but it's like you're not, it just feels like someone else wrote this and you're kind of phoning it in a little bit.
Yeah. I think I've worked with treatment writers, I think 4 times. Every single time I believe that I spent more time
You take more time.
fixing it than it would have taken me to just write it, because there's some really great ones. I think we
For sure.
probably even personally know some really amazing ones. I just feel like they do a lot of times come off on par with what ChatGPT would write, because they're not in your head. And especially for comedy, it's just like, comedy is all about like your unique specificity, and someone else just can't get it. I mean, I've hired one of my treatment writers, a really funny person that wrote really funny things, but every single joke in the treatment is something I would never say, ever, ever. And I know that once we're talking on the call, the agency will notice that my tone of jokes is just very different, just on a conversational level, than the jokes written in the treatment, So it just doesn't work for me. I know if you're doing lifestyle or something like a Nike spot or something cool, or automotive, or like, something sexy, which is like not my specialty, I think maybe like it's a lot more about the visuals and the prose. But for me, it's about personality, I think.
Yeah. I think what we're really talking about is take, right? Like, what's your idea? And like that, there's not really a good like shortcut to figuring that out. You can, if you know it, if you're one of those people who's lucky enough to like immediately get exactly how you would execute something, and you can communicate that in general terms to a writer, go with God. I think, Warren, you and I both are too process oriented. Like, the writing of the treatment is how you figure it out, how you refine your take and get there in the first place. And so like, every once in a while you'll get a job where you didn't have to treat on it, and it's always like a little frustrating because you're building the plane while it's landing, right?
Yeah.
Like you didn't have that time to meditate on and like find the exact right images and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you're so happy that you got the job, but now you're like, oh wait, but what is the job?
What is the job, and will they
figured it out.
like what I want to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the single bid plus a treatment, and you're like, but is the treatment going to win? Because that's like the most honest treatment usually when you have the job. You're like, hey, this is what I would pitch if I didn't have the job. But now that I have it, realistically, we're not going to have enough time to do these 3 things.
We can't do 18 TikToks. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's got to be 14.
I mean, the treatment too is a good treatment. It hopefully makes my job and the creative team's job easier, because it's going to help sell you to the client. And if it's an easy sell, it's an easy sell. If we have to like go, oh, we don't really like what he's doing there, we'll make sure we talk him off that. And it just makes the whole, we're all just selling something. We're all selling ourselves. We're selling the idea. And if anywhere you can make that process more frictionless, the better.
Well, not to put you too much on the spot, but can you give us just like a few tips on treatments, like in terms of length, in terms of imagery, in terms of language, like what's useful to put in there and what's not useful? Anything?
I mean, it's definitely case by case. Sometimes you want something more in detail than others, but I think you definitely can be too long. If a treatment's too long, sometimes it starts to hurt itself, because it's
What's
just like
too long? Like, how do you sense that it's too long?
I think because different directors do different styles, but sometimes if you got a wall of text, it's like it's daunting. If you're given
like
everyone, if you're giving people a novel to read, it's tough. If you're also putting a small paragraph on 100 pages, that's also annoying too. So it's finding that balance.
So I'm hearing small paragraphs on 30 pages. That's what
I think the average is like 30 to 45 pages is probably an average length.
For me, it's like 30 pages for one spot, and then you get an extra 3 to 5 pages for each additional spot that you're pitching.
Yeah.
That's
so if it's like 5 spots in the campaign, it's going to be a longer treatment than if it's one spot.
Yeah. No, that's probably a good metric generally. Yeah, it just what kind of minutia you get into. Like, you got to kind of know if the juice is worth the squeeze. And like, if you over explain stuff, sometimes it can make people feel nervous about what you're trying to do, but sometimes that's necessary. So I mean, I know that's not a great answer because it's so broad, but like, it just kind of depends. I think if it's comedy, I think you're trying to, the more times you can make us laugh reading that treatment, the better. Because I one thing that, I think Oren's, on your calls and your treatment, your personality came through, and you're a fun guy to talk to and easy to talk to. And that we felt like was going to make the job fun. And it wasn't going to be like, oh, it's going to be a struggle to work with this person. It's going to be a fun job, and they're having fun doing it. And, so when that comes through, I think that helps. So, I mean, what else? What not to do on a treatment? Unfortunately, it's not really fair. The images do matter. Because
why is that not fair though?
Just because it's just a curation process. You're just finding the right images. It's not even your images.
Sure.
So I guess it
is our taste. It's our taste,
yeah,
right? So
exactly. Yeah. So it's
I've got an image question for you, actually.
Yeah.
If you see the same images in multiple treatments, do you hold
Which must
it against
happen
them?
like all the time?
It must happen all the time, right?
It does.
It's like, there's only 6 commercials where a pirate is raiding a bank, and that's the spot, right? Like,
yep, you see it. No, it doesn't. Hopefully, as long as that's not the image, and it's like, oh, you just found the one that existed. But what we're talking about though right now is changing, because AI is changing the image game. It used to be you had to pull from existing spots and Getty Images. Now you can basically create the spot. So, which is good and bad, I think. I think overall, one of the best things about AI is able to, concept things like that. That's where it thrives, I think, the best, helping sell things and getting ideas out. It does take a little bit of the magic away when you actually make it, because you've already seen it and it's not coming to life on camera, and Video Village isn't as special because you've already seen it for 3 weeks before that. Because, it's pretty 1-to-1 nowadays. It's like what you AI is kind of what you're making. But
much shorter.
Yeah. I try to do like 70 to 80% non-AI images, because I do think if you're pulling really good images from really good work, by the way, I try to include like at least 3 or 4 images from my own work, especially when I have a sense of like why I'm being talked to. I try to sometimes I used to just assume like, oh, everyone's seen my reel, everyone's been to my website, everyone knows who I am, everyone listened to the call. But then it turns out that like of the 7 people on the creative team, like only 2 people like actually looked at things. The other people were just too busy. So I feel like now my new thing is I try to remind people a little bit like, hey, I'm Oren. I like to have people talk to camera, walk around, and have chaos happen in the background. Yeah. And here's like 3 examples. And,
do you
maybe
do that as a slide? Is that like a page?
Yeah. And I used to do it. Actually, Vince at art class, I've seen a couple of his treatments. He's a really good director too, and he wins a ton of jobs. And he has like a slide at the end that kind of gives like a bio, a little bit about him. And I just always thought it was weird at the end to end with a bio. But then I was like, I had pitched on this one job, and the agency literally wrote back. They're like, hey, can you just put a page on who Oren is? And I was like, oh, they have no idea. Like the only one person at the agency has it. And I added that. I was like, oh, this is kind of helpful, because it's presenting me through my work as to why I'm right for this job, and you get that power, as opposed to leaving it to the reps who are maybe presenting 7 directors. And like, Oren's great if you like this, but if you want a little darker thing, maybe go with, Tom or, Carlin. So
it's also like when they're like nice. Literally like, okay, you just saw 3 treatments. Which one do we like? Oh, right. The Oren, I remember his name, right? Like there is that psychology to it.
Yeah.
I'm curious to your point about AI. We boards have gotten better and better over the years, right? It used to be like you would just get kind of like a plain script, and now these decks are coming in.
Say that better is a subjective term. I would maybe use a different word.
Yeah. You're right. More thorough is what I'm trying to say. Actually,
you're more exactly developed. Right.
More developed, where there's a clearer visual identity. And I think as directors, it's a little hard because when it's AI, it's like, oh yeah, it's like that's literally what people are imagining, and maybe there's room for improvement there. There almost certainly is, but we all have this. We're now impregnated with a visual identity that like maybe we could have changed in some way. But
that the client has probably signed off on as well and has in their brain.
Yeah, yeah. And now that's our North Star, regardless of whether there's something to improve on it or not. But so I'm curious, especially with comedy, like we know to like plus things and that and this and that, but like it's always hard to know when something feels really fleshed out if we're supposed to zigzag or if we're supposed to echo back just a slightly plussed version of what was presented to us in the first place, you know?
I would say again, it always depends on the client, depends on the creative team. It could vary. I think in general though, I think plussing up anything is always what we're looking for. I think we are going to a director looking for them to help us make it better, because you have directors that will just do what you tell them to. And sometimes you want that, but like it puts more of the onus on the creative team to sort of like guide the ship. And sometimes that's what the job calls for. But I think a lot of times everyone's looking for help make this better. Like find stuff that we didn't think of, make the lines of dialogue better. I mean, I think we all, sometimes writers are very precious about their words, but I think more times than not, though, they're like, let's have fun. Let's make this better for comedy specifically. The funniest thing should win. Like the funniest idea should win in comedy. And hopefully, egos can be checked and it's just the funniest idea wins. And comedy is also interesting too, because like what can get a laugh in the room or on set is sometimes different than what plays in the edit.
Yeah.
So that's a whole art in figuring out what's the difference between that.
I think sometimes there's like you're bringing a little bit of a fresh perspective, right? And I feel like even on our job, sometimes the writers would be like, we agree with you, but it would be nice for the client to hear it from you because we've been talking about this for months, and you're kind of a new voice, and it's nice to get like a first impression again.
Yeah, I think you get some.
Something you can offer.
Yeah, I think during a job you get opportunities to present new ideas, and then once it's sold, it's sort of locked until the next off ramp, right? Like, and one of those opportunities is when a director comes into play, and we're hiring them for their expertise, so they're allowed to weigh in now on something that's already been sold, and hopefully we can guide the director through the landmines of what the client doesn't like at all and what they don't expect to see. But I think when you bring in a new voice, it gives you that window to then suggest new things. And on set is another window when you're actually doing the thing. You can say, it's not working, we need to try something else. But often you have to make sure you're getting what you sold, or else if you have a client that goes, hey, pull up the boards. Why isn't it what we looked at 2 months ago? Like, why didn't you guys shoot? You can't be in that situation where you didn't get what you sold. But if you have what you sold, you can show them it doesn't work, but look what we tried. And then hopefully it's obvious and they can agree with you.
Yeah.
But funny is subjective though. I mean,
oh yeah,
sure.
I've been in plenty of edit rooms where I'm laughing at something and other people are like, I don't get it, so
I like it when someone is giving you notes and like they're very clearly not funny.
Oh,
do you know what I mean? Like
the notes or the person?
The person. The person.
Yeah.
I'm saying like, and I think comedy is something that you can learn. I think some people have some innate ability, but like, I'm not. It's not like that. It's not rocket science. But sometimes you are just like, you're my boss, but also let's show this around to some other people. Let's get some fresh eyes.
Well,
see what they think.
My job before the one I just did with Oren was a comedy type of idea, and it was a very 80s sort of homage, let's say, like an 80s type of music video homage, if you will. That's kind of what they bought. That's what makes it funny. We're kind of spoofing, we're kind of parroting, we're kind of homaging this type of thing. But then a lot of times their notes were tone that down. And it's like, well, that's what makes it
off. Yeah.
But it's like, that's what makes it funny though. Your notes are literally going against what is supposed to be the whole point of the joke. Like you have to, we're parroting something. It needs to be heightened. If you don't heighten it, it will be like, are you guys, is it supposed to be funny then?
It's just a bad music video.
Yeah. No, that's a good, I kind of have like two general things that I think about comedy, which I think you can't generalize at all, but I'll try. Is one, and this may be all filmmaking, it's like just the bolder decision is always better than the softer decision. And when it comes to the comedy specifics, I think random is like never funnier than relatable.
Yeah.
Like relatable, even if it's mildly relatable and not insane, it's way better than like, then a unicorn comes in and confetti explodes. Like, can I tell you how many ad boards I've gotten with confetti exploding and you're like, this won't look good. It'll take us a long time. It's not what you're imagining. We have to clean up, reset. And it's just so random. And like every commercial for the last 50 years has done confetti explosions. Like, why are you writing that into the script?
Well, one thing that I fight a lot, and I kind of consider myself a self-proclaimed creative producer. Like I probably weigh in creatively more than I need to sometimes. It depends on the job. If I'm into it and it's comedy, I'm more into it, so I have more opinions. If it's something that I'm not that passionate about, I just let the creative team make those decisions. But if it's comedy, sometimes I have opinions on things. And sometimes certain creatives, they have a tendency, I'm sure you guys know the phrase hat on a hat. Like,
sure.
Yeah. And sometimes
I wish other creatives knew it. Yeah.
Sometimes they're just putting a hat on a hat. They're just joking the joke. And it's like, you're just making something goofy for the sake of being goofy, but it's not. It's actually funnier without that. It's way more specific without that. If you're just making it silly, it depends what you're trying to make. Sometimes absurd is the point, but like sometimes it's like you're literally putting a hat on a hat. It's not. We had this one time we did this spot and we were doing it was supposed to be a cheesy infomercial. We had this turntable with the product on there, and we thought it'd be funny to have a mannequin arm instead of a real arm present the product, like sort of Vanna Whiting it. And then the creative team wanted to add like 7 watches on this mannequin's arm. And I'm like, it's already a mannequin arm. We don't need 7 watches on the mannequin arm.
Yeah, that's a really good example of a hat.
Yeah, that's a perfect example.
It's a watch on an arm. It's a hat on a hat.
Watch on an arm.
It's 7 watches on a mannequin arm.
To their credit, I understand like sometimes you get a brief in and you're like, well, how the heck am I supposed to make, deodorant funny? Right. And then, you eventually sell something through and you're just trying to you just get joke fatigue. So you're like, okay, well, the mannequin arm, we've been sitting on that idea for 4 weeks and I wrote 16 versions of that draft. So like now it's not funny to me anymore. So the watches is the new joke. Right. And you just kind of get blinders to it. But I think that is a part of the privilege of coming in as fresh eyes. It's like, the root of it is still funny.
And part of that is what I was talking about with what's funny on set or what's funny in the room versus what's actually funny. Sometimes you're laughing on set because you're just being silly, hanging out with guys or, in the team. And it's like, what are we really laughing about? We're just laughing because we're being silly right now. But then you get the footage and you're like, this doesn't really cut. This doesn't really.
We're laughing on set because something surprised us. And
exactly.
That's because we heard the joke a bunch of different times and now we're hearing it a fresh way, but that fresh way is probably unlikely to really connect with the material that we've shot the rest of the day.
It always cracks me up too when the clients, I've heard this so many times where they're like, we should do a blooper reel. We should do a blooper reel of all the mess ups and stuff. And I'm like, no one's going to find that funny. We just are laughing because it's awkward and it's silly and it's our stuff. You make the blooper reel and it's like, this isn't funny. This is just people flubbing lines.
Yeah. People are like, what's my line?
It is interesting. I hope people don't take away that like a lot of absurd humor is bad. I think
no, of course not. Some of my favorite.
Like an Old Spice commercial, you brought up deodorant, is like how absurd it is and how fast it's coming at you is what's funny about it. Totally. If they really took their time and were like, now I'm on a horse. Look at your man. Now look at me. Like then it wouldn't be funny, but it's the fact that it's like hitting you so fast and you're not even, it's almost like a magic trick. Expecting the next thing, the diamonds, the sand, the sign.
Yeah. But also like the character is like, oh, he's hyper masculine, he's hypnotizing you, all these crazy things are happening, but he never breaks eye contact, and like the tone is always consistent. It's not like, oh, he's hyper masculine in all these different ways, but then he's a monkey. You know what I mean? Like that would be the hat on a hat, and that's the thing where it's like,
and he's usually like delivering those lines pretty straightforward, and then the chaos is happening around him and he's unflinched by it. So
those guys, sorry, just to put a hat on this hat, Tom Kuntz directed those commercials, and he was on Jordan Brady's podcast and he talked about Isaiah Mustafa, how they found him, the Old Spice guy. And he said that they had written this script that they thought was really funny, and they auditioned like 200 actors. And they were like, the script is not funny. The script is not funny. The script is not funny. And then Isaiah Mustafa walked in and did his version of it. And they were like, okay, yep, it works. And it's like,
Yeah.
sometimes that's the missing piece of like the alchemy that makes it
Totally.
work.
Totally.
So,
I mean, I think what I like about filmmaking, video production, visual storytelling is it does take a lot of different parts to make it all come together. It's a collaborative art form. And like what you're talking about though, sometimes it just takes that one missing piece to make it all click. And that's the glue. Casting is one of my favorite parts of the process though, because you can really see what actors bring to it and they can bring the words to come to life in how they interpret it. And I think that's the risk of AI is like you guys were saying, it sort of can flesh out too much early on when it was nice to see stuff kind of organically evolve. And sometimes now we kind of lock in too early because it gets fleshed out too much early on. But the scary thing is when something is not funny and we keep telling ourselves it's going to get better in the next stage of production and then it just never does.
Save it in the score.
Yeah, exactly.
Filmmaking business. I do have a question about casting that I don't think I've ever asked an agency person, but I've talked to many other filmmakers about it. I talked to my wife about it a lot, which is how much are you judging the director in the callbacks?
Oh,
this is a great question because we are nervous. We are like,
interesting.
I'm out of smart things to say.
Like when I'm redirecting an actor
lunch.
being like, why don't you try it like as if this thing happened? I'm trying to not repeat myself too much because I know that the agency folks have been hearing me say this to every actor,
We have good casting directors who are hearing us say it, and then they're telling everyone outside that we said that. And so then we don't have that arrow in our quiver anymore. And all of a sudden they're coming in and they're just knocking it out of the park. And you're just like, wow, good job. And then you don't look like a good director.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think some of that is just to be expected. Like, it's just going to happen. You have to repeat yourself to the 50 people coming in. We don't hold that against you. I think, let me think about this. I think sometimes you'll be fishing in a pond. We don't really know what you're looking for. Or we'll just be like, no, this next, we're not into this person. And the director will stay with that person for a while. And you're like, what do they see in this person? What are they looking for? It's, once in a while they'll pull something out, but sometimes we're like, what are they doing? We're never going to go with this person. They have a mullet. The client's never going to buy the haircut. It doesn't matter how well they pronounce the words. So, I mean, we'll judge you for just like what you see that maybe we don't see, but hopefully we've had it multiple times where, after we're looking at callbacks, the director will go, no, take a look at this person again. I didn't quite see it at first, but they actually took my direction really well. They pivoted when I told them to, and there's something subtle here that I think, and then hopefully you're showing us something that we missed, but we don't hold it. If you're repeating yourself, I see the creative teams repeat themselves 100 times pitching the decks to the different layers of clients. So it's just part of the game.
Have you ever had a director be mean to the actors in a way that like maybe turned you off?
I don't think I've ever had anything notable mean.
Well, let's open up the question a little bit. What are the things that like, if a director does it, it kind of turns you off or puts a bad taste in your mouth? What are those mistakes?
In production too, not just
throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't experienced this a ton, but it can happen. And, like we were talking about earlier, hopefully if they're being represented by someone, they have some level of skill and taste. That's why they're repped by that person. That's why they're being sent to you. So you hopefully they're there for a reason. I do think there is a certain level though, where it can start to be, people can start to have egos, and they can be very talented. They can be so good that they develop an ego, and that can start to, there's a little bit of a backlash there where that can start to hurt you. Now you get to people that are so good, you work with them despite the ego because they're just so good, and that's a privilege. But sometimes it's just like, sometimes it's just not worth it because they just are like, that guy's kind of a dick, he's good, but there's 5 other good people we can talk to. So yeah,
Have you ever had a director and a client kind of get in a big disagreement?
Once in a while, sometimes a director will feel like they have it and the client keeps asking for stuff, and then there's pressure about moving on. That can get tense. Sometimes the director's trying to get something for their own reasons, and we're like, we have it, dude, move on. And that can get frustrating. I've never had any horror stories where a director and a client are really bumping heads, but
have you ever had it where you're like, oh, we've got it, dude, move on, and they didn't, and then you were glad they didn't?
Oh yeah. As a producer, absolutely.
Mhm.
Because if we go into OT and it's on the director, that's the first thing I'm bringing up to the line producer. When they're like,
Sure.
dude, we're going into
Sure.
overtime.
Yeah.
We need
But-
OT.
but-
And I'm like, we said approved. We said move on.
Yeah.
They kept
that's not
saying-
where I thought you were going with that comment.
I was asking like in an edit, they're like, oh, we actually didn't have it and we needed take 15.
Oh.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Greg's like, that doesn't really happen.
Nope.
I mean, I'm sure it's happened. I can't think of specifically. Look, it sucks that we are often fighting the clock because we would shoot all day, every day if we could,
Sure.
right? Like I
Yeah.
would make a 1-day shoot be a 3-day shoot every single time if I could, and it probably would be better. But I think that's part of the art form. It's what can you do in this concentrated amount of time.
Mhm.
That's why you're hiring certain people. Like everyone could probably do it in a week. Who can do it in a 12? You know?
I feel like we're just fishing for nightmare stories, which are not really useful in any way to like our listeners. But my last fish is: have you ever had a director that's just phoning it in? Gave a good treatment, gave a good thing, and then on set, they're like, whatever you guys want.
Yeah, I have actually. I've had a guy who gave a really good treatment. That's why we hired him. He was really good in pre-production, was very thoughtful, and all that was leading up to a hopefully a good shoot. Then on the shoot, we ran behind because it was an ambitious day to begin with. That wasn't necessarily his fault, and he just was not figuring it out. Me and the creative teams were figuring it out. We're like, we can nix this shot. We don't need this shot. We can just do this. It'll still work. And we were telling him, which we're happy to help, but like you want to be led. You want to like,
yeah.
And
Sure.
I also saw him at one point looking at props or something for I'm guessing his next job. He was like on his phone, and you're like, dude, get your head in the game.
We're
That's
paying
what
you
lunch
for
is
today.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was disappointing, and that was rough. Me and the creative team sort of had to take charge, and like there was like continuity errors. We're like, dude, he was not holding it in that hand. Go back and look. Scripty, pay attention. Like, why are we catching this stuff? So that's not fun, you know. And unfortunately, it's becoming more and more common to have these super ambitious days, which makes everything more stressful, and there's less room to have fun and play. So that's unfortunate. That's becoming more and more common, but it is what it is.
Reminds me, one of pretty much like my first commercial job was actually at the Famous Group, was this Wendy's spot. And I was, I came from a narrative background, and I was just trying to run the whole script from top to bottom at different angles. That's how you shoot narrative,
Sure.
And at some point, like halfway through the day, we're a little behind, and the creative director is like, hey, why don't we just get the part of the line that we need? We haven't hit this one joke yet. You've shot the entire thing like 100 times.
Yeah.
But we don't have these 4 pieces. Like, why are you shooting like the whole 30 when I just need these 2 lines? And I was like,
Right.
yeah, it's pretty.
Right.
The commercial, I guess you're right.
Because, well, it's also only 30 seconds, and sometimes it's nice to have the coverage too. But
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, this has been really, really
I have
great. Yeah.
I have one more fishing question. No, this is again fishing. This is like,
go fish.
How do you feel about director's cuts? And specifically, how do you feel about seeing them in the wild? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I totally get it. I know why you want it. My version of that is agency cuts. It's a 45 instead of a 30. You get all the joke in, you get that extra set piece in, whatever. So I totally get it. I don't hold it against you. The only time it like makes my life difficult is if like I have to do extra color and special effects to make that thing work for you.
Sure.
And then, because a lot of my job is just like selling my soul to make a deal happen. I'm just like, please, I know we don't have the money, but can you just like fit? I know I scoped it this way, but can you fit this extra shot in, because it would make everyone happy and we'll bring you business next time. Like that's a lot of my job, is just like, and even on the job we just did with Oren, we had some overtime, an hour of overtime, and the production company paid for a portion of it and we paid for the other half. And part of that, I would like to think, it was just because I was a nice guy with the line producer and he wanted to help me out. And it's these personal relationships sometimes affect how things shake out. So
that was on the socials day, right?
It was, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When we shot like 12 spots.
Yes. And that was partly, that was partly on me, because I should have made it a longer day to begin with, but the bidding process, everyone is very optimistic, and you go, yeah, we'll move fast and we'll get it in this time. And then when the first AD gets involved, they're like, "What the hell were you thinking?" And you're like, "I don't know."
I was actually so proud of that day because
You guys killed it. You guys got tons.
Previous 2 days we were like I thought every shot looked great, but we were not.
Yeah.
They weren't up instantly. You know, we were taking time to make each shot look great, and I was like, "There's no way we're shooting one spot a day, and now we have to shoot 12 spots the next day." And then somehow, I knew we went into like a little bit of overtime, but
no, I was
like,
totally reasonable.
There was a moment where we're like, we probably can't get all of these. Let's start prioritizing these and putting them in order. And then I actually think personally, I've talked to Matt about this. I'm like, in the 9x16 vertical world, I think these are probably the best looking vertical, even though they don't look like UGC social Instagram videos. They look like the TV campaign, but they're framed. We turn the camera sideways, and I'm so happy we didn't do the center crop because it just never looks as it's never framed as good. I really love those.
Totally. No. What I liked about how that shook out is we didn't really have time to overthink things, and that's sometimes what drives me nuts is people are nitpicking little things, and I'm a very practical person. I'm like, guys, people are watching these things and they go pee when this is going to come on. It's like, stop finessing the background prop. No one cares about that. It's good.
You're both right is the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
but our 12 spots in one day, you didn't have time to overthink stuff.
Sure.
And I don't think it suffered. I think you just made it work, and we didn't overthink things, and I think they're all going to be great still.
Cool. Well, Greg, thank you so much for talking to us. If somebody wants you to hire them for your next commercial, what should they do? Just email you?
Yeah. Reach out to, be nice to your reps because they're going to be the first gatekeeper. But yeah, I'm over at Donor. Reach out if you got to work together. I'm always looking at reels, always looking to meet fun, cool people. And you
told me it has to do with greasing your palm or something. I didn't quite understand.
Yeah, it's usually you usually hand me $100 bill and then you get the job.
Yeah, like get ready for a lot of money.
No, I think we deal with a lot of stressful parts of this job, but I think some of the best things that keep me in it is just working with cool, creative people, and directors are a big part of that. People that tend to be directors tend to be fun, interesting, creative folks. So it's one of the better parts of the job is working with cool people.
Awesome. Well, for what it's worth, I thought you were a great agency producer, and I do really like that you have a background in film. A lot of agency producers don't. I mean, they all any experienced agency producer knows how much things cost and things. But I felt like, I don't know, you seem very, very solution oriented. There's a lot of producers that are kind of problem oriented.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, Oren. I think there's also you have to understand creatively why we are asking for the thing, and then you can kind of help assess how important that is or isn't. And whereas sometimes people are just kind of like, well, how much is it? Do you really need it?
Right. Well, my sort of training, if you will, is they try to tell us to not say no. We don't want to be the no producer. You want to say, maybe I'll look into that, or we can't do that, but we can do this. So you try to do that whenever you can. Yeah.
And you have to
sometimes it's just a no.
We'll look into that.
Greg, you're reminding me of one of my favorite light bulb jokes, which is, how many producers does it take to screw in a light bulb?
How many?
Do you really need to screw in a light bulb?
No. Does it have to be a light bulb?
Oh.
I love it. I'm going to remember that one.
That's a good one.
And Matt went to USC. I think most of what you learn there is film-related light bulb jokes, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, do you have just a couple more minutes to endorse something with us?
Sure.
Unpaid endorsements.
Okay, so my unpaid endorsements I've got two. The first is planting wildflower seeds is so awesome. It is.
That's good. That's good.
It's like one of the coolest things I've done. We have a local nursery that specializes in native plants in Southern California. And so you can kind of buy the local mixes. The big box mixes are good too, but they tend to not actually be native to your region because, Home Depot is all over the world or whatever. So it's kind of a little bit more generalist. I think a diehard would be don't buy from those. But planting seeds, I just scattered wildflower seeds in my backyard. And every day I look out and it's a new surprise. It's so awesome. It's been relatively rainy in Southern California. And so Like yesterday, my whole family, we all went outside to like look at the new red poppies that had blossomed. We're getting butterflies all over the place. It's truly a delight. So like, and also I've been buying a lot of plants lately. The amount of money you would spend on individual perennial plants is way greater than a $10 packet of seeds or whatever it is. And oftentimes if you go to like, like certain events, they'll give them a packet to you for free. So planting wildflower seeds is a true joy that I will hopefully do for the rest of my life. And then
my wife is an urban farmer, so she would definitely appreciate that.
Rock and roll. Yeah.
Which
awesome.
You had told me, but there is something just so satisfying as a non-urban farmer when you just plant something and then you see it grow and you're like, whoa, it's like the same satisfaction you would have in like fixing your toilet or something, by just something that I find very satisfying.
And they stay in bloom for a good while. You know what I mean? It's like they're relatively hardy. I guess it hasn't gotten too hot yet, which is part of it. And then my other is if you're making tacos at home and you ever get like the store-bought corn tortillas, they're like the taco shells, they're like in the little wedge and they're pretty crappy. If you put them in the toaster oven first, which is what it says to do on the box, and I have been, yes, I know. You guys both like kind of like cocked your head like confused pugs. I didn't know that either. And I was like, oh, it changes the quality of the taco shell. I will never go back from not toasting my crappy taco shells. So if you were making tacos at home,
like a mission
that likes tacos,
tortilla taco shell or whatever. Whoever makes those.
100%. Yeah, you just throw those in the toaster oven for a couple minutes, and they are way better.
Love it.
Way better.
They seem like they're already toasted, but
I know.
I love that. Also, can we just say toaster ovens are amazing?
Toaster ovens are amazing. That's true.
Yeah, they really are.
You could put it in your oven too, but it gets hot in Southern California.
Yeah.
Greg, what you got?
So, first of all, do your guys' endorsements change every week? Is this like a new endorsement?
Yeah, we have to come up with something new every week. That's why I'm talking about taco shells and flower seeds.
Yes,
yes. And that's why I'm usually talking about Trader Joe's snacks.
Well, I'm sure I'll have something better after I get off this podcast, and I think it's something better. I will endorse one of my favorite snacks since I was a little kid, my whole life, is a Detroit brand of potato chips called Better Made Potato Chips.
Okay.
I don't know if it's just Michigan. I think there might be some surrounding states too that it gets to, but it's just regional for sure. Better Made Potato Chips, specifically red hot potato chips. They're the hottest flavor, not just barbecue. Barbecue are good too, but the red hots, my favorite potato chip in the world. Every time I go to a different town, I try to try their local potato chip. I still like Better Made Red Hots the best. So if you're in the area, Better Made
really
Red
spicy?
Hot. They are very hot. So if you don't like spice, you're probably going to have a bad time.
You can get a 50-pack for $34 on Amazon.
Do it. They're good.
Okay.
That's
a good one.
I love that.
Love that.
Greg,
Besides that, I would just say experiences, live experiences. Go see some live music with friends. Try to put the phone down and have experiences.
I love that.
Cool. Can I film the music, the live music experience, or
you can, but only I think you can't do the whole song. Just get your clip for Instagram. Put the phone down.
Okay.
Let me ask you guys.
Did you see those clips from Coachella where literally everyone's just filming?
Everyone has a phone.
Yeah. Everyone's filming the thing that's already being filmed.
It's like the end of the night. You're like unwinding. You're like on Instagram, checking out what your friends have done. Have you ever been like, oh, cool. I'm so glad to see like this blurry, blown out footage from a concert. It's neat that Oren saw Taylor Swift. Like, just take a selfie in front of like the marquee or something. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I like to film other people's phones. It's like NFTs. It's like like a point or two. Video
I always like when someone's holding it up, but they're like dancing too, and I'm like, who's watching this footage? Later?
No one is. You weren't watching.
They have their light on. It's like a lighter. Okay.
That I'm okay with, though it is way worse than a lighter. Do you guys remember when people would put up lighters in concerts?
Yeah.
It was so awesome.
It's analog.
And then your thumb would hurt. You get a little bit.
If you ever see someone filming fireworks, you stay away from that person. Because no one's watching that video. No one watches a video of fireworks.
I have a really good one. I'll send you. I have a really good fireworks video. It's a lot about the silhouettes. You have to have people in front of the fireworks.
No.
Okay.
There's only one good social media fireworks video, and it's the ones where there's a malfunction and all of the fireworks go off at once.
Put them in their butt.
No. I don't want a fail video. I want I think it was Long Beach or San Diego a few years back. Like a couple $1 million worth of fireworks.
Like it didn't go into the
all
air.
went off at once. No, they went up into the air, but all of them together and it was just like done.
Yeah.
And like everyone's like around the harbor, like, what? Is that it? That's hilarious.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome.
Matt loves everyone's night ruined. Just like
I hate
tens of
fireworks
thousands of people.
for sure.
But one, it wasn't
and
on
my
my.
dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if your dog doesn't like fireworks, you should play brown noise. If you have an Amazon Echo, you can just say, Alexa, play brown noise. Great at covering up firework noise for dogs.
Okay,
My
yeah.
endorsement is even worse than that. It is an Instagram post. I just put it in the chat here so you guys can look at it while I describe it. But it's this filmmaker from Ukraine that does like tabletop stuff with it looks like he has like a Sony FX3 or like a Komodo or something, like a nice prosumer camera. But he does his camera moves in all these kind of weird, inventive ways. Like he'll tie his camera to a string and connect that to like a stand, and he gets like a cool arc. And if you guys go through the carousel, like, he'll do kind of some of the standard tabletop stuff, like cut a pan in half and like move a probe lens past it. But he also will just like connect, like he'll put his camera on a string and just like spin it. Just all these like very DIY homemade rigs. And then you see the footage that he shoots with all of them.
And it's awesome.
It's really good. And it's like literally cardboard and strings. And he has like a couple, kind of things you can buy on B&H Photo for like $100. But it feels like a really high quality broadcast TV commercial that he's just shooting in his kitchen.
Yeah, I love that.
In a very non-YouTube hack way that sometimes we talk about here.
That's great. I mean, all matters is, did you get the shot? Doesn't matter how you did it.
Yeah, and his name is Alex Tovsty. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but AlexTovstiy. If you check out his Instagram at Alex Tovsty.
That's
I
cool.
have no idea what for all I know, he's saying very offensive things in text. It's all in Ukrainian, but the footage is great.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, Greg, thanks so much for hanging out.
Thanks for having me.
If you have any questions for Greg, you can hit us up at justshootapod@gmail.com. If you need to send him $100, he's at Mr. Matt Enlow on Venmo.
Is that your?
And I'm at Mr. Matt Enlow across all social media, including Venmo. Hit me up.
Cool. We're also at Just Shoot a Pod on Instagram. You can find us there. I'm at O'Camplin on Instagram. This episode was edited by Kevin O. Yang. Our social media maven is Lily Bouvier, and our producer is Tyler Small. And you're listening to music from the Free Music Archive and the artist Jazar, and we will catch you all next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Goodbye.